I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to Meet the Candidate. Today we're joined by Katrina Schaffner, CD5 nominee for the Democratic Party. Welcome, Katrina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do?
So I'm originally from Chicago area in Illinois. I've been out in Arizona now for about 6 years or so. We bought a house not long after being out here, out in East Mesa area, really loving it. We love the outdoors, so this was a big change of pace for us, being able to see the mountains and the diverse nature and landscape. So it's been really exciting for us, especially having a little one that we get to take him camping on weekends and do all that kind of fun stuff we couldn't really do in the city life in Illinois. So it's been a great change of pace for us. So I have a trades background, a corporate background, and I've been a political activist my entire adult life. So at some point decided that running for office was a really good idea and that we needed better representation. So here I am today.
And you mentioned being a political activist. Have you been involved in things in the community, either in Chicago or here?
Yeah, both. So back in Illinois, I did a lot of environmental activism, LGBTQ rights, and healthcare. That was primarily what I was focused on. And then after moving out here and Russia invaded Ukraine, or launched their full-scale invasion, I should say, I got more involved in my Ukrainian community, as I do have Ukrainian roots, and decided sitting was not an option. I had to do more to help my community and get involved. So we worked with a group of volunteers. We built a strong, organized group of team throughout the state to actually fundraise to help Ukraine for humanitarian purposes. We've done political activism and have helped refugees as well.
And so then why the run for the House of Representatives? What do you hope to accomplish, and how did you come to that decision?
I want to challenge a system that benefits the top and has left the rest of us behind. I think we need to hold corporations accountable, make sure everyone's paying their fair share in taxes. Traditionally, politics isn't really meant for working people like me. And so our campaign is really powered by people who want to see a change in that political process. We need someone who is going to better represent our community, who's going to listen to the constituents rather than being in office to promote their own political careers. So for me, this really was personal. I felt like we needed someone who was listening to our voters and could just have better representation in DC. We really are lacking that working class representation right now.
And what are some of the primary things that you hope to accomplish then as part of the Arizona contingent?
I really want to prioritize our national security, our healthcare, and our democracy. These are issues that really pertain to all of us on an individual level. We all care about our democracy. We want to see it strengthened, not weakened. We don't want someone in power trying to overturn our elections and the will of the people and our votes. Our vote is our voice, and it really does matter. So we need people who actually want to strengthen our democracy, not weaken it or override people's votes. Our healthcare system, even though it's had its ups and downs, and I think that the ACA has done some good things, it's still very expensive. It's overcomplicated. We still have over 500,000 people who have filed bankruptcy because of medical debt. To me, this is unacceptable. Our veterans aren't getting the care that they need. And again, this is just an unacceptable system in the richest country in the world. We should do right by our people and provide more affordable, accessible healthcare. So this is something that I do feel very passionate about, and I really want to prioritize when I get to DC. And our national security, the incumbent who sits in the seat right now has gloated about strong borders. But when a conservative border bill came, he and his MAGA Republican friends killed that bill in the House. So for someone who says he cares about working on a border bill, he had no problem killing that for political advancement. For me, it's not about politics. I don't believe in these political games. It's time we stop playing those politics and actually start governing.
And so, starting in reverse order, I suppose, the border security, what would you have done in that position?
Yeah. I actually did support the conservative border bill. I thought it was bipartisan, even though it was very conservative and Republican-led. I still thought it was really important to get that funding passed, especially since it had funding in there for the fentanyl crisis. That's something we really haven't addressed enough. On top of it, we really need to invest in more technology to help kind of address this backlog and help make people's jobs easier. Right now, dealing with that backlog is really causing a dilemma for people when they're coming over to seek refuge here. On top of that, and some short-term funding that we need, we also need to restore relations with Mexico and Central America. This is the long-term effect, right? We need to restore those relationships so that people actually want to stay in their homes and not feel forced out to come to America if they don't have to. We really need to stop throwing all this money at Band-Aids for the border crisis and actually deal with the problem at hand. So I think we need better oversight so that the resources we're sending over there are actually going for their intended purpose and not benefiting oligarchs. And that's something that we can do a much better job of.
And all very interesting things in there, but and in lieu of the short time that we have, let's go back to the ACA and healthcare. Do you have specific ideas that you want to see done there?
Yeah, well, for one, I want to go back to holding corporations accountable. A lot of times these corporations get these massive tax breaks, but they're not using that to benefit their employees. They're using it to pay off their shareholders. So we want to make sure that corporations, if they're getting these bailouts, that they're actually using it for benefits for their employees, that they are using it to increase wages, to promote from within. These are all ways that we can kind of hold corporations accountable from a federal level and just from a policy perspective. On top of that, I think we really need to make it more accessible and more affordable for folks. It's also very complicated. When the ACA was passed, people were told they could keep their doctors, and then what happened is that they couldn't, and this was a real problem when that was passed. On top of it, while some people saw their costs go down, others saw a massive increase and are paying 20% of their paycheck towards their health care and still paying high copays. So for me, this is really something we need to be addressing on a much more, on a federal level, and really addressing it at hand. That way people can actually get more of their paycheck and not be so tied down to these copays and get the care that they need, primarily too when it comes to veterans.
All very good points. Katrina, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about?
For me, this really is just about accountability. We want people in office to actually represent their constituents. And when folks are in office for so long, at some point, they get these blind spots, they're surrounded by yes men, and they start telling people what they need instead of listening to people. And that's why term limits is so important. And it's important for us to get out the vote, to support candidates who do support term limits, and to have that turnover in Washington and down the ballot on a local level as well.
Yeah, term limits is something that comes up fairly frequently, but we haven't seen anything done yet. So
it's disappointing. You know, we really need folks who really do care about implementing term limits, and once they get into office, really do want to prioritize that, because that is an issue, and we do want to see that turnover. If you remember the Mark Zuckerberg hearings, that was a little bit cringeworthy seeing these men not really understand how our technology works and how society plays a role in that in today's society. So it's really important that we do have that turnover, and more important that we are connecting with our elected officials in that way.
Katrina, how do people find out more about your campaign?
You can go to my website. There's a lot of information on there, including a lot of my policy positions that are broken down. So go to katrinaforarizona.com, all spelled out, and Katrina with a K.
Very good. Katrina, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.